How to open SSH port from a remote client. Hi, welcome to another video of Cloudino. In this video, I'm going to talk about a package or a solution is called NOCD. The way NOCD works is you close SSH port to everyone, to any IPs. Whenever you need to have access to SSH of your server, you can knock the server, send some numbers, open SSH port, and then do your job, exit SSH, and close the SSH port. To install NOCD, if you are using any Debian-based distro, you can use apt install NOCD. If you are using Red Hat-based distros, you can use yum install NOCD. I'm making this tutorial on Ubuntu 22.04. Now let's install and configure NOCD. To install it, simply type in apt install NOCD. There are two main configuration files for NOCD. One is in etc default and one is in etc itself. Now let's install and configure it. Before we jump into setting, let's find out our NIC or network name using command IP space A. As you can see here, my NIC or network card number, name is ENS18. So I go ahead using my favorite text editor, which is Vim, and I open etc default NOC. etc default NOC D. Here you have two lines to configure. First one is start NOCD. I replace 0 with 1, and there is another line NOCD OPTS, first uncommented, and replace the NIC name with your NIC, which is in my case ENS18. Close this file, save and exit, and now go to the next section, which is in etc nocd.conf. Here, as you can see here, we have two sections, open SSH section and close SSH section. The open SSH section is to open SSH port when you need it, and the close SSH section is to close SSH port when you are done. Now, let's explain what these lines means. Sequence is a sequence of numbers which you send to the server to open SSH port for you, which I leave default, which is 7,000, 8,000, 9,000. But if you are in a production environment, I highly recommend you to change these numbers. Now, sequence timeout, I change it to 10. Next one is command line. When you send these sequences or these numbers to the server, this IP table command is run. IP tables -a append, I change it to I-insert, input -s your IP -p TCP, which is protocol for SSH, and destination port, I change it to 2048. Let's change it. Now, once we are done with SSH, we need to close that port. So again, here you have a sequence of numbers, which I leave default. 9,000, 8,000, 7,000. I change sequence timeout from 5 to 10, and this is the IP tables command which will run, which will delete the IP tables rules which we inserted using this open SSH section. Now, the only difference is that this line deletes the IP table rules. Now, the port I use here was 2048 or 2048. Now, to delete it, I need to change it to the same one, which is 2048. Now, I save and close, and now what I do, I restart the NOCD package. Let's check the status, systemctl status NOCD. It's active and running. Now let's also enable it to make sure it will start running as we restart the server. Systemctl restart SSH, NOCD. So we also enabled it. Now let's try to use this knockd package. To use knockd, let's first change the default SSH port from 22 to 2048 or 2048, and then we will block or close this 2048 port, and then we'll try to open this port from our SSH client. Now, to change the SSH port, simply using your favorite text editor, move on to etc ssh sshd underline config. Now, here you will find a section or a line, port 22. The very first thing you need to do is to uncomment this line and change 22 to your favorite port, which in my case is 2048. Save and exit and try to restart SSH to apply the changes. Now, let me try from my client. SSH root at my server IP dash or hyphen p 2048. Connection refused because I think here we have IP tables rules. So let's flush IP tables rules and try to SSH using this port. As you can see here, I successfully logged in using SSH to my server using port 2048. Now let's exit and go back to our server. Now what we need to do here is to close SSH port, which is 2048. But before closing SSH port, let's run an IP tables command so we make sure we don't get disconnected from server. IP tables hyphen a input hyphen m contract hyphen ct state established related hyphen j, which is for jump, accept. This is to save our current SSH connection. Now let's close the 2048 port using the same IP tables command hyphen a append input dash p for protocol TCP hyphen d port for destination port, which is 2048 in my case, hyphen j, and accept. So we successfully close our SSH port. Let's see if it works. SSH to my server using 20480. As you can see here, it's still asking for, I could successfully SSH to my server, but it shouldn't allow me because I rejected this IP, this port. Let's try to check our IP tables command, IP tables hyphen a input hyphen p TCP. Okay, I made a mistake here. I shouldn't use capitals here. Now let's try to SSH. Still works. Let's exit and see why it works. Did we restart SSH? Yes. SSHD. Now IP tables flush. Let's flush again and let's check our. So it says IP tables hyphen a input hyphen m contract hyphen ct state established related hyphen j accept. I think we made a mistake here. Instead of accept here, we should have used reject. We need to reject 2048 port to disable SSH. Let's check again. IP tables hyphen a input hyphen p TCP DD port, and here hyphen j reject Okay, we successfully closed SSH port, which is 2048. Now let's try to SSH again. Okay, as you can see here, SSH port is closed and we no longer can SSH to our servers. If you are using Firewall D or whatever firewall, you can simply close SSH port using that firewall you are using. Now to open SSH port from a remote client, you need to run this command, which is knock command. But before that, you need to make sure that you have installed the knockd package on your client as well. Okay, knock package is successfully installed. To use it, simply type in knock-v your server IP 681135, and now let's knock the server with the port number we specified in knockd settings to open SSH port, which was 7000, 8000, 9000. As soon as we run this command, we are going to knock the server, telling server, hey, I have the passkey to enter to get into the SSH, open it for me. The result is the output is hitting TCP, your server IP, the port number. Now let's try to make an SSH or establish SSH connection using the same command, which is SSH root your server IP -p your SSH port. As you can see here, I successfully logged into my server by knocking the server using the passkeys I had. I do whatever I need to do on the server, like let's update packages. And now I exit the SSH, I close SSH connection, and I try to knock the server to close the SSH port using the close SSH passkey. The passkey to close SSH is 9000 in my case, 8000, 7000. I'm going to knock the server, letting server know I have your passkey, please close SSH port. Now let's try to make an SSH connection to our server again. As you can see here, connection is refused and I successfully closed SSH port. I hope you enjoyed this video.